Well, that time of the year is here when all cars are supposed to be BS6 emission norm compliant, and the latest car right on cue to join that bandwagon is this, the Ford Endeavour. I know it looks very familiar to the older model, but it has one big change that changes the dynamic of this car, which is the drivetrain system, but we'll get to that in a bit. However, what you need to know is that the Ford Endeavour, despite being BS6 emission norm compliant, variant to variant is cheaper than before. However, the entry price has gone up, but that's because you now have an automatic transmission starting at the variant line and not the manual line, but that's too much information. What you need to know is variant by variant, this is cheaper, and that should only mean it's a good thing. Or is it?
Let's start by looking at the changes that the car has got. Let's start from the outside. Well, remember this badge? Earlier it would read 3.2 or 2.2 based on the engine spec that you had got. But now it just reads Endeavour. That's because now there is only one engine option, so there is only one badge. And the only other change on the outside is in the headlamps. The projectors, which used to be circular in shape, are now squarish and give better illumination. And yeah, that's about all the change that it has on the outside. On the inside, it's all the same. Well, except that you now have an app called Ford Pass that gives you all the usual connectivity features like remote locking, unlocking, remote start-stop for the engine, remote AC control, geofencing, and so on. Now that all the small changes are done with, let's get to the big one.
Well, now let's come to the really interesting part about the Ford Endeavour, the really new part about the new Endeavour, and that has to be the engine on board. Now, this is a 2-litre unit, it's called Eco Blue. It's an inline 4-cylinder unit, it is turbocharged, which means it makes 420 Newton meters of torque and 170 PS of power. But is that enough?
Well, the short answer is yes, it's more than enough. Because the power and torque trade-off is not that big as compared to the older engine, and even if it is, it still has plenty of both in the bank whenever you would need so. Where this engine really shines though is in terms of refinement and usability. Now call it a side effect of meeting a higher emission norm or whatever, in the end for you, the car will feel more linear to drive, feel refined, and it has a good sense of progression as well. And I quite like it this way because let's be honest, the Endeavour is going to spend most of its time in the city and highways, and there you will want this sense of calm and refinement, which actually helps in improving your driving experience. On top of that, the NVH levels are better because the engine is a tiny bit quieter than before, especially at idle. What's also good is that the suspension is now a bit softer than before, which means the sudden pothole jerks have been ironed out and the car simply glides on the road. And a big reason why you won't miss the bigger engines is because of the transmission.
So yes, that engine is good, but what makes it great is this little thing over here. This is a 10-speed automatic transmission, and yes, you heard that right, it's a 10-speed transmission. And I know what you might be thinking at this point. It's going to take a lot of time to go from the first gear to the 10th gear and all the way back. But thankfully, that's not the case, thanks to Ford's Select Shift technology. Now, what that enables the transmission to do is, say for example, you're cruising around in, say, 9th gear and you want to overtake someone. In that scenario, the transmission will drop down to 4th gear directly and skip all the gears in between and give you the amount of torque you require depending on your accelerator input. That makes it really efficient, really usable, but in more ways than you might think of.
And when you combine all of it together, the Endeavour is still a monster of an SUV that can tackle anything and everything that you have to throw at it. This was especially true when we were dune bashing, as the car felt right at home. And the ease with which it gets through all the obstacles is still a pleasantly surprising experience, to say the least. One big reason for that is Ford's Select Shift technology, which lets you limit the top gear to which the car can go. This comes in very handy while off-roading, as the car remains in the gears that you want. The only thing that I wish it had were paddle shifters, which could make the entire operation a lot easier. But not only is the car good off-road, it's a lot better road car too, and still has the other goodies on it from the older model, like the humongous sunroof and pretty much the best infotainment system in the segment. So all in all, it might be a smaller engine, but it's a better car in every way.
Well, now it's time to sum up my thoughts about the new Ford Endeavour. I've driven it around a variety of driving conditions and even went dune bashing in this, which was, without any doubt, a lot of fun. However, let's sum up this car as how it should be for you. Well, first thing first, this is more competitively priced, starting at about 29.5 lakh rupees, which makes it better value for money than before. Now, it might have lost the 3.2-litre engine option and the 2.2-litre engine option, but the new 2-litre diesel engine is really competitive in that respect and also a very good engine to drive around in both off-roading conditions and city roads as well. So, without any doubt, the new Ford Endeavour is better value for money than before. And given the fact that it will be one of the few SUVs being offered with the diesel BS6 emission norm compliant engine, makes it one that really stands out of the crowd.